Hey everyone, it's Jared with Up North Tactics. Today I'm just going to be talking about a few little things here. Scope mounting and blue Loctite primarily. Some do's and don'ts that you want to do and don't do. And basically how to mount up your scope properly and your torque specs, some of the tools you want to use. So let's jump straight into it. So here we have my girlfriend's Savage Model 11. It's chambered in 243. It's a really awesome gun, but I noticed the crosshairs for the scope were quite a bit off actually. So I decided to take everything off, get everything torqued to spec, and make sure that we can align these crosshairs and level the scope. So one thing I want to talk about right away is blue Loctite thread locker. Please do not ever use this on your rifle, ever. So basically what happens is when you go to torque it, say you're using a little torque wrench here, so when you go to torque your screws for your scope or something of that nature, and you've introduced blue Loctite, essentially what's happening is you're putting something that's going to initially lubricate your screws. So what ends up happening there, say if you want 18 inch-pounds of torque on your scope rings, that's not what you're actually going to get. You're going to get somewhere between a range of 20 to 60% more torque applied on your screws than you would initially intend to, because it's lubricated. Now Vortex has a really good podcast that I can try and link that talks about all of this in way more depth than I can ever speak of, and I would really encourage you to check it out, and please stop using this. I also learned the hard way. I ended up stripping a screw off the base of one of my rifles because I was using this. I was wondering why my rifle was shooting like shit. It's because of this. The rings were completely over-torqued. Everything was over-torqued. And then what you're doing is you can essentially crush your scope tube, or you can actually squeeze it so tight that it impacts what you can do with your turrets and how you adjust them. That's the number one issue that people typically have when mounting scopes, or they're doing something. Oh, I can't get my scope to 0. 1 second it's over here and 1 second I'm shooting there. Everything's perfect. I don't know what's happening. The number one issue is it's improperly mounted and it's improperly torqued. So normally what I'd like to do first is you can give these a little wipe down. You can use something that is going to strip away oils in that immediate vicinity. Sometimes you might have a little bit of crud on there. You might want to use just a little brass brush. And then basically you want to go ahead and get your bases. This one is a 2-piece base, and sometimes stuff will get stuck in under here, so I'm going to go ahead and give this a quick spray and wipe.
October in the railroad, old bums with tattoos from Singapore.
And then I think there's a certain way that they line up. Maybe there's not, but honestly I don't think it really matters a whole lot. At least with this style of a 2-piece base. Now you're going to want to go ahead and find whatever bit works. So I'm going to set this up. We're going to go for a peak of, let's do 25 inch-pounds. So we're sat for 25 inch-pounds. We're just going to get one of these started. So that one's in.
Jack hits the morning alley with his brakeman's lantern. Stares at a hooker in a polka dot knotted skirt.
That one's in.
3 eggs for a dime and that lumberjack stew. October in the railroad.
Now this vise that I'm using here is called a Tipton gun vise. You can get it on Amazon. I forget how much it costs exactly, but it is an extremely, extremely useful tool if you like to do your own gunsmithing stuff at home and cleaning, those sorts of things. It's extremely useful. So now that we have these both started here, I'm going to go ahead and torque these down. So I'm actually going to only do 15 inch-pounds on the base as I'm scared of stripping it. So I've actually decided I'm going to go to 17 inch-pounds as I'm a little bit worried about stripping. I forget the exact torque specs for these, which a lot of times you can find it online, but sometimes it's hard. But a lot of manufacturers have different torque specs for each one. So I'm just going to go ahead and slowly bring this up.
His wife is taking him sewing to pay his bills.
And there's my 17.
October in the railroader. Jack is
There's my 17.
over $62 in the bank.
I'll give you guys a little first-hand view here of what exactly happens.
Getting beat up outside
So,
bars, passing out in cars,
see here.
left his blood soaked in the railroader.
There's my 17 inch-pounds again.
What's that thing called fame really worth? Light a candle for his soul.
17. So the next thing I'm going to start doing here is I'm going to mount my scope. And this is just the scope that originally came with it. You're going to want to make sure your turrets are the right way up. I had done this previously and they were like this and I totally didn't even realize it one bit. So first I'm going to start with my rings here.
On the road, Dharma bums, Tris Stasis.
Sometimes you can give these a little scrub out as well if you want, but it's not 100% necessary. So you're going to want to set them roughly where you want them. And I'm going to adjust the scope itself once it's in place in the rings to where I want it. This gun has a smaller length of pull, as it's my girlfriend's rifle. It works perfect as her arms are shorter than mine, shorter than most men, honestly, when it comes down to the averages. I don't believe this gun was ever intended as a woman stock, but it does have quite a bit shorter length of pull than the average rifle does. But like I said, it ends up working out perfect for me. Now, I feel pretty safe with these ones here, going up to about 30 inch-pounds.
Well, I wonder where's Spade Kool-Aid?
All rings are different. My TPS rings, I can go right up to 40. Certain ones you might not be able to exceed 20. So I'm going to torque these down.
Or is he somewhere down in purgatory?
There's my 30, nice and snug.
Oh, I wonder.
There's my 30. Okay, now we can go ahead
Where were you
and lay
on that day?
our scope in.
Earl Haggard died.
And
Off of the road.
we can start getting our rings on. So now essentially what we're going to do here is I'm going to get these started. Now, if you've had blue Loctite on these, you can give them a scuff off, and that's what I would recommend doing if you have. These ones haven't. So I'm actually just going to start these with my finger to get them in first. And when you snug these up, you're going to want to have to make sure that your rings are even, so one side isn't totally clamped down and the other side is, you know, sitting super high up like that. Because you want the most equal amount of force on your rifle scope itself. So I'm going to go ahead and get this snug enough that I can still move it. but nothing crazy because I want to go ahead and get my scope set up. So I can go ahead and clamp my vise down. So I'm just going to show you guys manually here. So I can clamp my vise down like this. Now this secures this stock in place quite well. And then what you're going to want to do is you can get some little scope leveling levels like this from this is Wheeler Engineering, the same ones that do the torque wrench. And so this one's going to go inside the breech here, and then this one's going to want to sit on top. And you're going to take a look at your levels and how they're sitting, and then you're going to adjust as you need, and I'll use these to adjust here, and I will dial it perfectly in level with this level here for the bubble. They're very sensitive, and then I can go ahead and secure my scope when I know I'm totally level on my scope. So as we're sitting here, you should be able to see these pretty well. So I'm going to start snugging this up here, and I'm going to get these bubbles to move. We are dead on here. Now this top one, I'm going to need to move it just a tad. Right there, I'm 100% solid, I'm good. So now what I can go ahead and do is I can start applying a little more pressure to these to get them in place. I want to make sure that I'm not going to be moving anything too much until it's relatively snug down, like so. Now for this, I'm going to go to 18 inch-pounds, and I'm just going to make sure my rings are going to be really nice and level. You're going to want to take your time with this and really get them dialed in. Now I'm going to watch my torque. There's my 18. There's 18. I'm quite happy with how level these are. I'll show you guys here. So as you can see there's no massive gaps. There's no humongous differences from side to side. So I'm going to go ahead and do the back, and then we'll be good to bore sight it. So I'm going to do the same thing with these back ones. I'm going to back this one off just a tad because I don't like how it's looking there. Bring this up. Here's my 18. And there's my 18, nice and level. And that, my friends, is basically how you mount a scope. And now we'll get to the bore sighting. So the number one thing that I dislike about this, I wish there was something where it would indicate of how level it was exactly to your barrel. So I find a lot of the times I try and look through the back of my scope and view the bore sighter till it lines up with my crosshairs, because I know my crosshairs are level. So as you can see here, you can actually see what I'm talking about. And this is one of the best ways to bore sighting on, in my opinion. It works really good. And usually I'll zoom in so I can see really well or whatever, and make sure I'm really dead on lined up. And then we go ahead and bore sight. You take your caps off your turrets and adjust as you need, and you can watch it move around itself. So it works super good, and it's a lot better than spending 2 boxes of ammo some days to just try and get on paper. So, and there you have it. It's basically all you really need to do for this. Everything's set up properly. It's now bore sighted for a 0 of 200 yards on paper, and basically from there you can go and dial it right in as you need. Good to go. I always recommend that anybody that purchases a new gun or gets something off of someone, anything of that sort, one of these inch-pound torque wrenches are a really good investment, and same with one of these bore sighters. Just for the fact that you can have peace of mind, you can go over everything. You don't even know how many brand new guns I've looked at and go, oh, okay, well this screw here is at 2 inch-pounds and this one's at 34 from factory, so. It's always good to have peace of mind and redo everything. And so yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. I appreciate it. I'll see you again soon.